Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have an incredibly shocking and nerve-wracking story for you. It's about trust, betrayal, and the lengths one man went to uncover the truth. Imagine discovering that the person you love most in the world might be hiding something so devastating that it could destroy your entire life together. Well, that's exactly what happened in today's story. So, sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for, I caught my wife's affair with the butler and it got worse when I fired him. 10 years into our marriage, I became very wealthy thanks to the percentage of ownership I had in my father's company. So, I bought my loyal and lovely wife a mansion for us to live in, which came with a butler who was prepared to take care of all the undesirable chores. My work schedule was pretty spontaneous because I could visit the office as I pleased or work from home. Our marriage and life together for the next 20 years after that were blissful other than some odd moments and occurrences. One day, I arrived home from work to find the butler with my wife, standing side by side doing dishes. She was drying, the easier part, but I didn't understand why she was willingly doing any of the chores and standing so close to him. Their elbows touched a few times, and I coughed to let them know I was there. My wife jumped, but he just moved away from her a little bit. She said she felt bad he was in here all by himself, so she wanted to keep him company and help a bit. She was so cheery and warm, I couldn't tell if she had any ill intentions. Another time, I came home to find her lounging in the pool with the butler gardening and staring at her. They laughed a few times before I came out to greet them. It was clear that they were at least friends, but I didn't like how friendly they were. I thought I was just being controlling and jealous, so I accepted that my wife was friends with and cared about the butler. What was the harm in that if I trusted my wife of 17-ish years at this point? We spent every moment I wasn't busy together. I loved her, and I could tell she loved me. Yet another odd occurrence was when I walked upstairs to find the butler closing our bedroom door. It had been hours since I was upstairs because my wife was still sleeping. It was odd, and I asked him if she called for him. He jumped when I spoke and turned around sheepishly, although I could tell he wanted to act normal. He stammered and said she called to ask him for some water. I accepted that for a moment, but reminded him that he was not to enter our bedroom or open the door. He didn't know what to say besides, "Yes, sir." He walked away quickly, and I opened the door to find my wife in her panties drinking water. I asked her if the butler saw her like that, and she said no, she just took off her robe again. I was skeptical. I was heavily considering hiring a new butler. It seemed like she was flirty with him, at least, and I didn't like that he was most likely in our bedroom with my wife in her panties. Before I could terminate him, I saw him smelling my wife's panties. I know, it's really bad, really ballsy. I caught him on the security camera. I told him that was unacceptable and made my wife really uncomfortable. I didn't even tell her about it, but when I told him she was uncomfortable, he instantly looked like he didn't believe me. That ticked me off. I told him he was fired. I hired someone else, this time a female maid since I knew my wife was straight. I decided that even if I was jealous and protective, it was a smart decision. 1 week later, I arrived home to find the maid outside gardening. I went upstairs and found the butler I fired coming out of our bedroom once again, except this time he was dressed in regular, but still kind of formal, clothes. He looked at me like he was amused, but inconvenienced because I was there and saw him. I asked him what he was doing in my house again, and he told me my wife hired him for something else. He said it with such nerve, all I wanted to do was punch his smug face. I told him to leave and not to come back, no matter what my wife told him. As he walked away, I went into the bedroom and found my wife wearing a skimpy little nightgown. I asked her what was happening, and she looked nervous. She said I was home earlier today than the week before, and I told her she always knew my schedule was spontaneous and not to change the subject. She turned red and told me I was freaking out over nothing. I asked her why she couldn't explain why she was here in her skimpy nightgown after the butler I fired just came out of the room. She was pretty stunned and said she hired him back for things around the house the maid couldn't handle. I asked if one of those things was helping her with her personal plumbing and lubrication. Her jaw dropped, and she couldn't look me in the eye. Her cheeks must have been burning, they were so red. It looked like blood vessels in her face were showing up. It was crazy. Her face never turned that red in all the 30 years we were together. She finally said in a weak voice that if he did help her with that, it was nothing against me. I told her that it most definitely was against me because she belonged to me. We were life partners, and only I was permitted to help her with her plumbing and lubrication. She said she wouldn't ask him to help her again, and asked me not to worry about it anymore. I asked if that meant she was admitting to sleeping with him, and she was silent. She nodded yes very minimally, with her eyes watering. Then she started speaking really fast about how it didn't matter, she just considered it a job, nothing meaningful that would take away from our marriage, and she needed me to forget about it so that nothing changed between us. I told her this was most certainly going to change things between us, and it already took everything away from our marriage. I told her we were over, called her a name, and told her to get out of my home. I was extremely careful to get a post-nup signed after I came into more money. It's not that I didn't trust my wife at the time, it was because my father and I were lawyers, which means I couldn't ever be made the fool. So my wife sorrowfully packed her bags. She had too many bags for someone with nowhere to go. The butler came to pick her up in the car he afforded with the paychecks I gave him. They stayed in a motel where the butler had been staying after I fired him. My wife had so many belongings, clothes, that she had to leave some of it behind, which I immediately told the maid to sell on eBay, or keep for herself. They stayed in that motel as long as they could, but their money ran out without me signing the checks. They tried to contact me, individually, blaming each other for what occurred and asking me to take them back into the mansion. It was gratifying that they were turning on each other and failing to survive or do anything with their lives. Even to this day, my ex still tries to ask me for help and gives me some updated sob stories about where she is in life. It is not glamorous, it's far from what she was accustomed to with me. I've become something like Bruce Wayne in town, and I have no complaints. Even though her betrayal hurt, I knew from the moment I found out that I could recover from it. Not because of my money, but because I know what love is. And it wasn't that. I am sorry your wife couldn't see what a great life she had with you. I honestly feel like the attention and sexual tension she experienced with the butler was too much for her immature brain to handle. It was a man in close proximity to her that she shouldn't sleep with, no matter how much he would have been willing. He obviously paid her attention, and when their friendship developed, she couldn't keep her legs closed. I believe she was egotistical and materialistic, and didn't have the respect she should for her providing and loyal husband. What this type of woman needs to understand is that resisting temptation pays off in the end. No man should be able to convince them to disrespect themselves and their spouses by breaking their vows and trust. I'm not sure what happened in your wife's head, but we are all here for you to offer support. Now let's get into our second story for today. One fateful day, when my wife went to work, she forgot her phone. I took the opportunity to check it, and was appalled by what I found. I should have known what was going on, because my wife, 25, was extremely excited about going to work suddenly. She said it was because she became in charge of a business task that she really enjoyed. It was something like designing different abstract images each day for a newsletter. I, 28, believed her. She was a good girl, and I was proud of her for earning us additional income for living expenses. The only other dead giveaway was that she didn't want to have sex as often, but then I knew why. It was because she was sexting with a coworker, sending pictures, and talking about the sex they had. It was disgusting. I drove to her work immediately. I backed up all the stuff for her phone, because although she wasn't getting it back, it was going to be deactivated. I brought it with me, and started by showing the receptionist, who I only met once before. Then I asked her if I could get a guest pass to go have lunch with my wife. She giggled and gave me one. She knew I was sarcastically infuriated, and this was going to be a heck of a show. She followed me in, putting up a "be back in 5 minutes" sign that she scribbled out. Everyone looked up from their desks to see me. I must have looked determined and angry. I asked everyone to gather around, and they did. I said I had some news to share about somewhere they all knew well. They were all sparkly-eyed with gossip endorphins when they found out who I was talking about. People started looking around for AP and my wife. AP came out of the bathroom just then, and we all looked at him. I announced that there was a guy who had the audacity to sleep with my wife. Some of the coworkers started shouting out insults at him. Among these, he was called despicable. Just then, my wife's head peeked out of her office. When she saw everyone looking at her, she went back inside and shut the door. Now everyone knew what my wife and AP looked like naked. Some girls whispered that they knew something was going on between them. Coworkers took the time to print/draw signs that said slanderous insults and taped them on my wife's office door. I thanked them for their creativity and left, wondering where the boss was that allowed all this to happen. When my wife got back to the house, I already had the locks changed. She took the stuff I let her have to AP's house. They both quit their jobs that day and walked out shamefully. In our town, there was just one major employer for like half the population. So when I shared with people the things my wife talked about and took pictures of, everyone in the area knew about it or saw it. It didn't take long for them to decide to move about 500 miles west. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. Since she moved out of state, our divorce was made final through the mail. She didn't ask me for anything, thank God, but I would have been able to prove her infidelity anyway. She was done with me and the embarrassing past she was trying to forget. I felt the same way about her and couldn't be happier with the choice I made. I am sorry your wife behaved like an untrustworthy office cheater. It's hard to get as low as a person who cheats on their spouse while utilizing their trust to earn income for the family. What are they even working for if not to improve the life they have at home? If they honestly believe the person they start an affair with at work or anywhere is better than the spouse they have at home, they're wrong. the grass may seem greener on the other side. Finding a person with a new set of features, issues, habits, goals, and interests is completely unnecessary. It is only a shame when a marriage or union ends because one spouse thought they found better in someone else or just thought they could effortlessly manage two serious relationships. Really, the only grounds for divorce, the proper way to end a marriage, is when one person absolutely cannot or will not honestly communicate with the other person. Thank you for sharing this story. I appreciate your bravery and bold confrontation. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Welcome back to the channel, dear viewers. Tonight, we delve into a tale that uncovers deep family secrets and sparks a heated conflict. The story is titled, I Discovered My Stepdad Abandoned His Kids and Kept It Secret for Years, Now My Family is in Chaos. Join me as we unravel the events that turned a seemingly perfect family life upside down. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this shocking story. I moved an hour away, started a job over the summer, and became close with a few coworkers. One of them and I have become actual friends outside of the office, and she's integrated me into her friend circle. After getting to know her backstory, mom was abandoned while pregnant and had to raise 3 kids, we got close, and I consider her a good friend now. She's so sweet and nice. Last weekend, I was over at her mom's house getting ready to go out, and was looking at some pictures on her wall, and I saw one of her younger brothers and a man, and did a double take. He looks exactly like my stepfather, but younger. I tried to find another he was in, but that was it. She saw me staring at it and said that's her father, and I laughed and said he looks like my stepdad. She asked me his name, and I said it, and the color of her face left. She started calling her mom to come to the room, and the next 10 minutes consisted of me awkwardly answering their questions. Turns out my stepdad is her father. I met him when I was 6, so my friend would have been 8, and that's the time he left. He never mentioned having any kids, so it was shocking. It was horrible to hear them cry, and we never went out. I told them that he has a successful business, and maybe they could get money for back child support, but they said they didn't want anything from him. I went home this week, and things have just been awkward. My stepdad is so nice, and literally my only father figure, so to know he abandoned his biological kid is crazy. My stepdad just kept asking me why I'm acting weird, and I didn't say anything at first. My mom pulled me aside, and I told her everything. To my surprise, she didn't react. She said how he lives his life is his business, and I shouldn't judge him. This is coming from a former single mother. I remember her crying over my dad leaving us, and I was disgusted by what she said, so I told her loudly not to speak to me, and she's a hypocrite and stormed out of the house. My stepdad followed me to my car, saying that I needed to come back and apologize to my mom right now, and I told him to go and apologize to the kids he abandoned and listed their names. I told him to take care of his actual children. He looked like he would faint and went back inside the house. My mom has been sending me texts that I need to apologize to my stepdad for being an idiot to him and making him cry for days, and that he raised me and took care of me, and that I shouldn't forget that, and that if he didn't do what he did, I would be the one without a dad and to be grateful. I haven't replied back. Am I really the idiot? You need to apologize? Wow, the gall. You've discovered that your stepfather is not who you thought he was. He and your mom told you a massive lie of omission for your entire life. He and your mom walked away from innocent children he was legally and morally responsible for. The fact that he raised you and cared for you has very little bearing on this new information you've discovered. It's okay to be appalled and take time to process this shock, and for God's sake, you don't need to be the one apologizing, and you are not the idiot. Am I the only one who thinks her mom might have been the other woman who he left his family for? The timing seems suspect, plus her lack of reaction says a lot. Oof. It should go without saying that any parent who abandons their parental responsibilities is an idiot, but your mom? Oh boy, let's just say that if you ever find yourself on a lifeboat with limited food and water, make sure to sit outside pushing distance. Stepdad came into OP's life when she was 6. Her friend would have been 8 then, and that's when he left their family, so it adds up. I mean, it could have been a random chance that they met quickly after, but his willingness to jump into stepdadhood after abandoning his children so wholly also makes me feel like your theory's correct. If OP wants to know the truth, she may want to start with her friend's mom. I cannot imagine her mom or stepdad ever admitting that OP's mom knew, was in on it, or was the other woman. Wow. OP's mom is a cruel, cold woman. How awful to find out that both people who raised you are so selfish. I would hope that her friend would understand that OP isn't the bad guy here, but it may be hard for them to be around the person their father raised when he didn't stick around to raise them. For me personally, if I was the abandoned child, it would be too hard. Like, I couldn't imagine hearing stories about OP doing things with my father that he should have done with me. Update, I talked to mom and stepdad. They're saying the past is none of my business, and that even if it was, screaming to him to take care of his kids isn't the way to go about it, and that I only care about my feelings and no one else, which makes me wrong in this situation. My mom is saying my stepdad didn't do anything wrong to me, so he has nothing to apologize to me about, and I need to make a sincere apology soon. She's saying that I told him about the kids in the worst way possible, and I only said it to hurt him, so it makes me no better than him, and even worse. I'm planning a wedding and deciding everything regarding the guest list. Given the venue's small size, we have a hard cap of people allowed. We can only have 105 people. Anything after that would not be allowed due to fire codes and venue policy. I have an older sister, Mia, whose life is a bit of a mess. She and her latest ex-partner, and the dad of one of her kids, broke up in the last 6 months. She has 4 kids, who are all living at my parents' house for now. We opted not to have a child-free wedding, after there was so much drama about it. Mia's 4 kids, preschoolers to tween, will be at our wedding. She recently got an invite stating her name and her 4 kids' names. She then called me and said, I assume as an adult, I also get a +1. We told her no. She's not in a serious relationship, and she and her kids are already about 5% of our total guest list. Our caterer also doesn't charge less for kids, so we're paying about $400 for those 4 kids to be there. We don't want to pay another $100 for some random that she'd bring. She's not dating anyone, but she said she could easily find a date or bring a friend to have someone to dance with. We told her she has 4 kids there, which should be more than enough, instead of having a +1. My dad is on my side and is tired of her taking up their house. My mom is a little more sympathetic and says I should allow her to have a +1, because that's what you do for adults. Spending $600 on just my sister, her kids, and a date, when she's not seeing anyone seriously, seems ridiculous. She's pretty ticked off though. Am I being the idiot here? Not the idiot. I think you're being very generous in allowing her 4 children to attend, and she had the nerve to ask for an additional person? Wow, she's a bit of a choosy beggar, isn't she? It's your wedding and your money. If she wants to bring a +1, then let her pay the $100 it's going to be to feed that person. If your mom is all for it, then she can pay for your sister to have a +1. It's really cute that she wants to wine and dine someone at your expense, a person you've never met, and that she's not in a relationship. The wedding and reception are about the married couple after all. Who does she expect to babysit her children while she's dancing anyway? Are other people going to have to forego the dancing and babysit so she can have a good time? She can hire a babysitter and leave the kids at home and get a +1. Or she can bring her kids and no +1. Let her choose. You win either way. She's broke, so there are no babysitters, and I'm not even expecting to get a gift from her. She didn't get a gift from my other sibling last year because money was too tight. I honestly don't care about the gift thing, but I'm already paying roughly $500 for her and her family, and an extra $100 just feels unreasonable given she's already bringing 4 extra guests. My partner and I are paying for the entire wedding ourselves. Then that's your answer. No means no, and you shouldn't have to justify it to anyone. It's your wedding and your money. Don't let anyone bully you into doing something you don't want to do. Your sister will be fine without a +5. My brother has 2 kids, ages young teen and tween, with his ex. They were high school sweethearts who had kids young, never married, and split when the kids were still little. They mostly always shared custody of the kids, but for about 8 months in 2017, the kids were primarily with my brother because his ex was homeless. She got herself together again, and she got married in 2020. Her husband has 3 or maybe 4 kids, and ever since she remarried, she's been asking my brother to include her stepkids in stuff that he does with my niece and nephew, like when he took them to Disney or when he took them to the aquarium, etc. My brother has always told her no and ignored her attempts to get him more involved. The kids don't like their step-siblings very much or their mom's husband when they do see him. It sounds like he's mostly absent, so they've never wanted them included in time with their dad. Lately, she's decided that since my brother isn't giving in, she'd focus on me and ask me to do these things with the kids. My husband, the kids, and I often do things with my brother and the kids. She knows this. She asked me in person a couple of times if I'd like to bring her stepkids along with us or watch out for them. I told her no. I told my brother. He told her to knock it off. Then a couple of weeks ago, my nephew came to me and said his mom wanted him and his sister to ask me to bring the stepkids along to a water park trip we had planned for May. He said they didn't want them to come, but his mom would be up his butt about it if he didn't ask. He said she wouldn't accept it when they told her I wouldn't say yes. So, I told him I would speak to his mom. So, I called her and she started as though I had already said yes. I told her I was calling to say no and stop asking. She told me I should give it a shot and that the kids are missing out and how great it would be for my niece and nephew. She said she'd have them ready and introduce us better before the weekend so the kids and I know each other. She said it would give the kids time to do stuff with their siblings. I told her that she needs to quit trying to pawn her stepkids off of my brother and me because she's been told no each time and it's getting closer to harassment and it's unfair to drag the kids in the middle. She told me she was looking out for her stepkids and I'm a nasty witch. My brother is so tired of her, but he can't do anything other than ignore her request. He's tried, but she doesn't want to listen. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. So, she expects others to do her parenting, give her a break from her parenting, and pay for strangers' kids. Just because she said so? But she had a good reason from her perspective, so others should put up with it? The level of egocentrism is off the charts. This woman clearly does not want children, so why does she have some? And why did she marry a man with kids? Be prepared for the ding-dong ditch my kids approach of leaving them on your doorstep and driving off. When that happens, let her know in no uncertain terms. You will call the cops for child abandonment. A ring camera might be a good idea, too. It sounds exhausting, but you're doing the right thing by holding firm on your boundaries. I can understand that it's hard for the mom to see her family not get along, but she chose to marry someone with children that her existing children don't seem to like. The best thing she can do would be to stop forcing everyone to be one big happy family and just give her kids space to come around on their own terms. My husband, 51, and I, 48, female, have 6 children. Our teen, Gianna, is a junior in high school, and our son, Riker, is in 7th grade. The kids are starting to have their school dances. The 7th grade dance is later this month, and the junior banquet is in early May. We've gone shopping for dress clothes for all the dances. We bought Gianna's dress a few weeks ago. Gianna has usually been a good kid throughout her life. This school year has been slightly harder than others, though. Around 2 months ago, we got a call from Gianna's choir teacher saying that Gianna and a few other altos were making insulting jokes about some of the new pieces she introduced, including an Urdu song and a song from the Honduras. We talked to Gianna about her actions, and we made her write an apology to her teacher and write a 5-paragraph essay on why it's important to respect music from other cultures. Riker has a friend from his baseball team who is Honduran. He was born here, but his mom was born in Honduras, and his dad is mixed. When Riker heard about this, he was quite mad, and he asked if he could have his friend come over and teach her about the culture there. We allowed this, and he came over with his parents, and they made food, and Riker and his friend talked about sports and music there. Gianna was very clearly not enjoying it, but we made her engage anyways. Our daughter and a group of her friends, including her boyfriend, got in trouble last week for making the same jokes again. We took her phone to investigate where this hatred could come from. Riker had his friends over for a sleepover the night we found out about this. During dinner, the boys were talking about how their coach would never let them live through it if they bullied a kid or made that kind of joke. My husband and I tried helping guide them through their feelings, like asking them about the diverse athletes they liked. Gianna was hanging out with friends at the mall that night, some of whom were doing dress shopping for the upcoming dance. Unfortunately, our son and the boys decided to use this as an opportunity to trash the dress, using mud, drinks, and cutting a few holes in the dress. We found out when Gianna came home, entered her room, and saw the dress. The boys were laughing, and Riker said they did it because Gianna didn't deserve to go to the banquet, saying how there could be kids that looked like his Honduran friend. We told Riker we were trying our best to educate her in a very white town. We're also white. We told him that this was the wrong way to take out his anger, and that as a result, he couldn't go to a 7th grade dance. Riker told us to shut up and spent the rest of his night in his room with the boys. Riker texted my parents and siblings, as well as my in-laws, and a few have called us and come to his defense, saying he's just a kid who was trying to cope with anger. So, now we're unsure if we are in the wrong. Am I the idiot? Edit. We haven't decided if Gianna's allowed to her dance yet, but she's already had her phone taken away as a punishment, though. You are the idiot. I don't understand how destroying a dress comes with a bigger punishment than getting in trouble for the same crime twice. What he did was wrong, but the fact that your daughter's still getting to go to her dance and out with the friends also seems like the wrong response, so I can understand why he's angry. Yeah, like is the daughter some golden child or what? Maybe the son sees the lack of true punishment or consequences as her getting away with it and is understandably angry about it. OP royally messed up here, and their half-baked solution is only going to make things worse. I agree, an appropriate punishment would be making him pay back the cost of the dress or a new one, but I honestly wouldn't punish him. I'd explain how what he did was wrong, but you're proud of him for sticking up for his friends against his awful sister. And you are the idiot for even allowing your daughter to still go to the dance. Obviously, whatever you're doing with your daughter isn't changing her mind. Maybe take a look at yourself and how you contributed to raising a brat. My parents are having people from their home country come for a visit. They told me that for the 4 weeks that the guests were here, I was to vacate my room and sleep in the basement on an inflatable mattress. I, female 26, have only been living with them because they insist. I have a job and have been working and saving money since I was 16. I didn't need their help to pay for college, and I paid them rent for my room, as well as buy groceries and help out around the house. I told them that if they wanted a guest room, then I could move out. Several condo developments in my area have units ready for immediate possession, and I have almost enough to buy one outright. I have no debt, thanks to living at home for the last 4 years. They say that I'm being ungrateful and argumentative. I don't think it's fair to kick me out of a room I rent for nearly a month. They didn't even offer me the choice not to pay for the month I don't have any room. Not the idiot, but at 26, you don't ask to move out. You sign a lease and then tell them the date you're moving out, and make sure you already have important stuff, computer, laptop, passport, driving license, social security card, etc., safe, before you tell them, just on the off chance that they throw everything away while you're at work. If you're paying rent, you have a right to your room. Imagine if a roommate asked you to pay rent, but also give up your room. Or a landlord. An actual unrelated landlord wouldn't be able to force you to stay in a different unit or room than the one you rent for their guest. Consider this a sign and a blessing to move out. At 26, you're too old to have to put up with this kind of behavior from your family. And that, dear viewers, is how a chance discovery led to the unraveling of a long-held family secret. If you were captivated by this tale and want to hear more stories of family conflicts and unexpected revelations, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts and similar experiences in the comments below. Have you ever faced a family drama that took you by surprise? Until next time, remember, understanding and communication are key to navigating the complexities of. Hello everyone. Today, I have a story that's bound to leave you speechless. It's a tale of manipulation, heartbreak, and ultimately, poetic justice. Buckle up as I share how my evil mother-in-law tried to ruin my marriage, but karma had other plans. Welcome to the story of my evil mother-in-law ruined my marriage, but karma struck back harder than ever. Let's dive in. But don't worry, justice was served and my evil mother-in-law Nessa did get her karma in the end. To start my story, I must mention that I met my husband Logan in college. We were both studying abroad and I had no idea how horrible his mom truly was. From what I had heard from Logan, I only had admiration for the woman. Nessa was a single mom to Logan since his dad died when he was a teenager. It was a rather tragic situation. While coming home from a dad-son trip, their car crashed and only Logan survived it. His father was alive for a very short while and passed away 2 days after the incident. Logan had moderate physical wounds but his mental trauma was something that just wouldn't go away. Logan had always talked about how he was grateful to have his mom step in and take care of him. Nessa was a fighter and raised a fine young man. So I only had positive thoughts about Nessa until I actually met her. This is how our first meeting went. Nessa, I'm so happy to meet you. I was actually looking forward to getting to know you because of the stories Logan told me. You truly are a remarkable woman. That I am, Zoe. I'm glad you could see that early on. I'm not someone to be messed with. I did have to suffer a lot raising Logan alone. Yes, you have truly raised a fine young man. Logan has landed such a great job and is so good at taking care of others. He loves you a lot, you know. He has achieved so much to make you happy. I hope you're proud of him. Why should I be proud of him? Logan has only done the bare minimum. I deserve that after losing my husband due to his stupidity. I swear Logan had gone rock beside me. I was seriously taken aback by Nessa's words as well. I had no idea how to react to that. What Nessa said was nothing short of mean and horrible. I said, "What do you mean, Nessa? It's very unfortunate that your husband died in an accident, but what does Logan have to do with it?" Oh, well, he had everything to do with it. If Logan had not insisted on leaving me alone and going on a dad-son trip, my husband would still be alive. It is because of him that I lost my dear husband. Am I right, Logan? Yes, you're right, Mom. I really shouldn't have insisted on that trip. I'm sorry, Mom. Did you see that, Zoe? Even Logan accepts his mistake. That is one of the reasons why he is so close to me. I am his responsibility now. Let me warn you, Zoe, Logan will always put me before you. He will always remember his duty to me. Guys, the dinner was an eye-opener for me. I sat there in shock while Logan kept his head down and just took the blame for his father's death. Nessa had a gala time blaming him and reminding him how she should always be his priority. I stayed with Nessa for 2 days and what I heard broke my heart. Nessa actively blamed Logan and has been doing it his entire life. That way she kept him under her thumb and made him fund her life. It was just bizarre and I felt bad for Logan. One night I sat him down and tried to make him understand how wrong Nessa was. I said, Logan, you shouldn't listen to your mother. She's just trying to control you by shifting the blame for the accident on you. This is not okay. Zoe, Mom's right. In a way I am responsible for Dad's passing. I've already accepted it. You don't have to feel sorry for me. Logan, you are crazy. You need to seriously get some distance from your mom and analyze her ways. She's emotionally manipulating you and taking advantage of you. Look, Zoe, even if you're right, what can I do? I need to take care of her. She's the only one I have left. Before my dad died I had promised him that I would do everything to help my mom. I can't back down on that promise. It's true that I took Dad away from her. I want to make up for that mistake. It's my duty. I tried my best to make Logan understand what a snake his mom was. But he would never listen to me. Nessa made good use of his fresh trauma and manipulated him into thinking that he owed Nessa everything in his life. Nessa was taking full advantage of that. My good opinion about her was already in shambles and I started to hate her. Nessa wasn't stupid. She knew that I would try to make Logan see the truth about her. So she constantly created trouble between me and Logan. Despite everything, I married Logan because he was an amazing man. I knew that his love for me was true. I also knew that I couldn't just walk away from him knowing how vulnerable he was. We got married and soon Logan purchased an expensive mansion for us. Guess who showed up right after we moved in? Yes, it was Nessa. One day she just showed up with her stuff and declared that she would stay with us. Why, you may ask? Of course, because she deserves it for losing her husband due to Logan's fault. I swear even typing this out makes me want to knock her out. You could only imagine my anger when she sat in front of me and berated Logan for not inviting her sooner. Logan, of course, gave in and allowed her to stay. He was already shouldering her expenses and paying her rent, so it was nothing new for her. But it turned out to be a nightmare for me. Nessa made my life a living hell. She started to manipulate Logan into thinking that I was a gold digger who didn't want him to take care of her. Yes, I didn't want Logan to shoulder all of Nessa's expenses because she was a toxic manipulator and abuser. I don't know why she thought I was a gold digger because I contributed to the household and had a job, albeit not as good as Logan. Anyway, after a year of fights and screaming matches, I have had enough and left the house. I moved into a friend's empty apartment and gave Logan an ultimatum. I said, listen to me Logan, I can't live with your mom like this. We have been taking all her responsibilities and she is still running around abusing us. Hell, she had moved on to trying to break us up. I can't take this anymore. You refuse to punish her or do anything about this situation. Zoe, what can I do? You know I can't speak against my mom. I'm the reason she's alone and without a partner. I don't have the place to tell her off. I'm so sorry Zoe, I want to support you but I don't know how. Listen to me Logan, you have to see past your mom's manipulating tactics and take a stand for us. This can't continue. I won't go back to that house while she's there. If you think you can't do anything then it's best we get a divorce. I was honestly tired of Nessa and at the end of my wit, so it was natural for me to consider divorce. I didn't want to be with someone who wouldn't stand up for me, but Logan wasn't willing to let me go. He immediately panicked and started to beg. He said, Zoe, I can't evict my mom from the house. I promised my father that I'd take care of her. I won't be able to make her homeless or kick her out, but I will buy a new house Zoe. I'll sell whatever I own and buy a house for you. No, I don't think that would be a good idea. As much as I want to get away from your mother, I also don't want to financially cripple you. Fine then, you can. I'll pay the down payment and take a mortgage. I promise I'll get you away from my mother. If I leave her the house she will at least create less problems in our life. I'll slowly cut her off Zoe. I promise you that I will make sure you never face this situation again. Logan literally begged me to give him a chance. I won't lie to you guys, but I did feel hesitant to accept his request. I did love him a lot, but I was doubtful that his mom would leave us alone. However, after a lot of careful consideration, I decided to give him a chance. But things would be different for us. It was hard to start a new life with Logan. Nessa threw a fit when he talked about moving out. Thankfully, Logan pacified her by saying the house would be hers and she wouldn't have to leave her favorite place. Also, Logan promised to send her an allowance every month so that she wouldn't have to fend for herself. While this was going on, I continued to stay apart from my husband. I wanted to see his resolve and only waited till he had purchased a house and started the mortgage payments. He was the one who set everything up, so I knew he was serious. 2 months after the house purchase, I moved back in with Logan. Nessa threw a fit and tried to cause problems. She stormed into our new house and said, "Why the hell is that witch back with you, Logan? I thought we had gotten rid of her for good. You don't need a gold digger in your life like that. Look at this, Logan. She even made you buy a new house. Mom, you have no right to say what I do with my own marriage. You wanted Zoe gone but I didn't. We have decided to mend our relationship and marriage. You should be happy for us. Why the hell would I be happy, Logan? First, Zoe tried to kick me out of your house and now she made you buy her a new house. She's just proving me right in thinking that she is a gold digger. Why would you still want that in your life? Mom, I love Zoe. Buying a new place was solely my decision. Zoe had nothing to do with it. You are not a saint either, Mom. You did create a host of problems for Zoe too. So far, I have never stood up against you but you are taking things too far. Don't make me regret supporting you, Mom. My dear mother-in-law turned pale when Logan talked to her like that. She had never expected Logan to stand up for me like that. I know that to most people it is nothing remarkable but to me it was. I knew how much strength it took Logan to stand up to his mom. Nessa, of course, cried and lamented about how he was treating her very cruelly. It was a complete drama and I wisely kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to interfere and somehow give Nessa the chance to make me the bad guy again. Plus, I didn't even have to say anything. Logan continued to covertly threaten Nessa about cutting off her monthly allowance if she continued to cause problems. That shut her up eventually but Nessa's words also gave me some food for thought. When Nessa was gone, Logan started to apologize to me again for his mom's words. He was worried that I would bolt after this small incident. He was really caught between a rock and a hard place. It honestly made me feel very sad for him. It was then that I decided that we needed some more changes. I said, Logan, I really appreciate how you stood up for me today. I know it's not enough and a little late but I appreciate it anyway. I will do that again if Mom tries to create problems, Zoe. Please don't leave me again. I swear I will make things right. Logan, I'm not leaving for now but we would need a little more change after today's incident. It has got me thinking about certain stuff and what more needs to be done. Logan immediately jumped to hear my suggestions. It warmed my heart to know that he was willing to do what it takes to make us happy. That's how I got the confidence to proceed with my suggestions. I said, first of all, I think we need to see a therapist. We need both individual therapy and couples therapy. It will help us fix our relationship better and make you unlearn that shit that Nessa has been teaching you since your childhood. Absolutely, Zoe. I've been thinking about the same thing. It's difficult for me to stand up to my mom due to my childhood. Mom really made sure I always felt guilty about standing up to her. Only therapy can help me in this regard. What else do you have in mind? I would like to start paying the mortgage on this house. What? No. I decided to buy a new house. I need to prove to you that I am committed to us, Zoe. You already proved to me that you are committed to making this marriage work. But I need the world to know that I am not a gold digger. For that, I need to have an equal contribution to this house. You already made the down payment, so I will take over the mortgage payment. Eventually, we will put both our names on this house. Logan did protest a lot when I suggested this. He was adamant that he would pay for the whole house. Hell, he even suggested I put my name on the deed without paying anything. But I strongly disagreed with that. I knew that if I had taken up his offer, his mother would be proven right. She would have convinced everyone that I am after Logan's money, which I am definitely not. The best course of action was for me to pay the mortgage and eventually have my name added to the house. After a lot of discussion, I convinced Logan to do what I had planned. From the next month onward, I started the mortgage payments on the house. 2 years passed and things were great between me and Logan. In our new house, we were able to have a happy married life away from Nessa. She did try to meddle and cause problems, but Logan put her back in her place every time. Therapy helped a lot and Logan was able to let go of the guilt that his mother had instilled in him. The two of us were very happy and Nessa was a distant problem from our past. But everything came crashing down when Logan was diagnosed with a rare disease. The diagnosis came late and there was very little we could do to help him. He was given 4 months to live. It is difficult for me to describe what the diagnosis did to me. It is even more difficult to explain my mental condition when he passed away just 3 months into the diagnosis. What I can say is that I was able to make the most of what little time I had left with Logan. Thankfully, Nessa didn't interfere much or rather Logan didn't allow her to. But when he was gone, Nessa didn't stop the venom spilling out. Just 2 days after Logan's death, she strolled into my house like she owned it. I was angry and said, "What the hell are you doing here, Nessa? I told you to stay away. Why would I listen to you, Zoe? This house will soon be mine anyway. I've just come to see it before I take full ownership of the place. You are freaking crazy, Nessa. This house is mine. There is no way in hell that I would let you take it from me. Oh darling, this house was Logan's till he died. I know that you guys never ended up adding your name to the deed. Before he died, Logan had promised me that I would receive this house in his will." Nessa's words made me panic instantly. She was right about the house. As the years passed, we didn't have the chance to put my name on the deed. It was actually still completely in Logan's name. Now Nessa was saying that Logan had promised her the house. I had a hard time believing that Logan had betrayed me so cruelly, but until the will was read, there was no way to tell. On the day of Logan's funeral, things were tense between me and Nessa. We were both pretty sad, although Nessa made a big show of crying every time someone came near her. How did I know? Well, she actually smirked at me when people left me to comfort her. It was starting to get on my nerves, especially because I really wanted to grieve my late husband in peace. I didn't want to make that day about me, so I kept my mouth shut and avoided any confrontations. The real drama started when me and Nessa were called by Logan's lawyer to read the will. When the will was finally read, I discovered to my great horror that Logan had indeed named Nessa as the new owner of the new house. I was honestly in shock while Nessa laughed in my face and kept saying how Logan would always put her above me. The lawyer sort of gave her the stink eye to keep her quiet while he read the next part of the will. While I couldn't understand why Logan would give Nessa a house that I was paying for, the lawyer read the rest of Logan's will. Nessa didn't pay attention to it because she was busy laughing at me, but I knew what my dear husband had done when the entire will was read. I smiled a little at Nessa when the lawyer said, "So, as you can see, the smaller house that was purchased recently will go to Mrs. Nessa here." Oh God, my son does love me a lot, doesn't he? He left me 2 freaking houses while his gold digger wife didn't get anything. I'm not sure you understand the will correctly, Mom. Maybe instead of laughing at your daughter-in-law, you should have paid more attention to the last part of the will. What? What are you talking about? Well, let me put these simple words for you, Mom. The bigger house that you're living in right now is going to Zoe and the smaller house with an active mortgage is going to you. This means you will have to empty your existing place and take on the mortgage at the smaller house. Nessa's face completely changed when she realized what Logan had done. Her precious son hadn't left her everything in his will. Instead, he had left her a small house with an outstanding mortgage that she would have to shoulder. I, his wife, ended up inheriting the bigger house from which Nessa had forcefully made me move. It was the last bit of revenge that my dear husband took on my behalf. Nessa was in complete shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She said, "Excuse me? What are you even talking about? That can't be true. My son would never do that to me. You are lying. This is some sort of a scheme against me. You are accusing me of being unprofessional, Mom? That is a serious allegation that I won't entertain. I will provide you with a copy of the will so that you can cross-check the facts." Oh, hell yes. I am going to take a copy and see for myself. The lawyer looked pretty ticked off as he handed us both the will. True to his words, the will stated what the lawyer had already told us. My husband hadn't betrayed me. He actually screwed Nessa over as a last act of revenge. I knew he did it for both me and him. He was finally able to teach Nessa a lesson. Seeing Nessa's face, I could tell that she wasn't pleased. She started to cry and yell at both me and the lawyer. It was just bizarre the way she was behaving. Even the lawyer looked like he was at the end of his wits. Nessa kept saying, "This is bullshit. This can't happen. Someone has sabotaged this will. This will is 100% genuine, Mom. Mr. Logan had himself drawn it up a month before he died. And this will is rock solid. I will contest this will. I won't let Zoe take what's rightfully mine. I will sue you, Zoe." "Go right ahead, Nessa. Your son has made sure that the will is ironclad. You can't do anything about it. If you want to contest, you will have to use your own money. By the way, I hope you realize your allowance will stop from next month." Nessa looked at me in panic when I said that. She hadn't thought about that either. She was so used to having Logan take care of her that she didn't even plan what would happen when he wasn't around. I guess she had really thought that Logan would leave her everything in his will. So my little warning sparked some doubts in her. She said, "No, no, no, that can't be possible. I'm entitled to an allowance, right?" "I didn't think so, ma'am. Since there is no clause about an allowance, it means you are not entitled to any. Besides, the will clearly says that all monetary possessions of my late client will go to his wife. So any allowance you get will depend on your daughter-in-law. If you think I will give you any money, you need to think again, Nessa. That will never happen. So don't even bother asking me." "No, no, this can't be happening." Nessa sank to the floor crying like a banshee. The lawyer and I ignored her to carry on our own conversation. She remained on the floor crying and cursing me out while I casually strolled out of the funeral home after I was done. Nessa had her karma served to her and it was now time to face the music. As the days passed, Nessa desperately tried to go against the will. She spent the last bits of her money trying to find a lawyer who would contest the will. Well, to no one's surprise, everyone refused. While she was busy doing this, I had served her an eviction notice. The house she lived in was mine now anyway. As the month was up, she tried to beg me to let her stay there. She even tried to use her crocodile tears to make me give her money. I closed the door on her face, of course. I was living with a friend and moved into the big house where Nessa was forced to move out. She moved into the small house and was stuck paying the mortgage. Since she had no money of her own and no job, she had to ultimately sell the house. The sale needed to be quick, so Nessa lost out on a lot of money. Not to mention the fact that the house wasn't even paid off completely. All in all, she only got enough money to support her for a year. I was there in my new house watching her every move. I saw her destruction with my own eyes. My stupid mother-in-law didn't even last a year with that money. Her terrible financial decisions made her homeless and penniless well within 8 months. Nessa did come back to beg me for help again. She tried to emotionally manipulate me by saying that her son would have wanted me to help her. I laughed in her face and told her son already made his intentions clear. She didn't like that one bit. This time she couldn't even form a retort because she was down on her luck. Karma is truly an amazing thing. I saw her last week when I was out grocery shopping. She works at the cash counter now. She pretended not to know me. It was well and good with me. I didn't even feel sorry for her. I heard she's renting a place with 5 people now. All I can say is that she deserves it. As for me, I'm content being single in a big house and with the beautiful memories of my husband. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. I'm thrilled to have you join me today for another captivating story that will surely leave you both shocked and entertained. Today's tale revolves around an encounter with an entitled Karen that took an unexpected turn. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go. So, I work in a coffee shop. Most of our customers are genuinely lovely people, but over the years, I have learned about the levels of entitlement and just plain crazy that exist. To be honest, I didn't think anyone could surprise me anymore. Tonight's events might actually have surpassed the guy who put a curse on me and my family. The guy who threw a ceramic cup at my head one morning. The drunk girls who threw up all over the front door at 7 a.m. then walked in and got grumpy that we didn't have any vegan breakfast items. The time a guy managed to get himself so wound up that he started swearing at me because I hadn't laughed hard enough at his "if you can't find a product on the till, then it's free" joke. That I have previously never ever heard before. Ever. Honest. Yeah, okay. So today I was cleaning up like usual and for once, it was going pretty smoothly. One of those dream shifts where you look around and just know you're going to get out on time. No last-minute customers demanding you make drinks and mess up every piece of equipment you've just spent an hour cleaning. It was glorious. I did the usual rounds telling the last few stragglers that we were closing in 5 so if they could start finishing up and getting themselves ready and so on. And I went through to the office to start the admin. Now, one thing you need to know is our company policy states that you can't take the till off and count it until the doors are locked. Obviously, you can't lock the doors until all the customers have left. And this is usually not a problem. So I came back through to lock the doors and there she is. Let's call her Karen, okay? Karen is standing near the front door and emptying out the entire contents of her purse and pram all over a table. I looked at the girl who I was working with and raised an eyebrow. She's working with me long enough to recognize the "what the hell is going on" look. Apparently, Karen had lost an earbud. Great. So since she's been a regular customer for over a year, I put on my best customer service act and go across. We went back and checked where I knew she'd been sitting. Then check out the other table she had also been sitting at earlier. Turns out I never want to put my bare hands that far down the sides of the sofas again. We both searched and couldn't see anything. I offered for her to leave her details in case it turned up in the morning. I'm on early so I'd have another look tomorrow. But nope. This wasn't good enough. Before my eyes, this usually very normal, polite, pretty, reserved grown woman turned into a raging banshee. Screeching about how they are 150-pound earpods. Several things happened over the next half hour. Her husband appeared. Someone needs to give that man a medal, or maybe a CT scan. He quickly sussed out the situation and tried to talk some sense into her. She then started screaming about how she wasn't leaving until it was found. And she was calling the police. At one point, they were physically fighting over her phone while she dialed 999. And he was calling her crazy. Side note, never call a Karen crazy. It does not end well, my friend. I was standing to the side quietly watching this all unfold. Keys in one hand and phone in the other. While texting my boss what was going on and reminding her she really does not pay me enough to deal with this. Being the absolute champion boss she is, she called and heard some of that chaos going on in the background. Karen's poor husband continued to try and reason with her. There was a little more chat between me and him while she wailed down the phone at the police. She started demanding I go check the rubbish bags. apparently telling her she was more than welcome to go check them herself. But they were in the skip bins at the back of the building. Was just not the right answer. Eventually, her extremely patient husband got sick of her, so he left. At one point, she shouted at my colleague who asked her to move so she could finish mopping the floor, which set Karen off again. Her husband reappeared as she was kicking off at me again for stepping in and saying the girl didn't shout at her. And pointing out that after her behavior for the past 20 minutes, she was in no position to decide who is and is not shouting. It was at this point she finally pushed the limit of my patience when she said the words, "I am not leaving until you show me respect. You would treat me differently if I was from this country." Now something else you should know, I'm not actually from this country either. I might have the local accent, but my birth certificate states something different. I'm also not white, so I take particular offense when someone tries to use a race card in a racist way. Sometimes people are just jerks and it has nothing to do with the skin color of anyone involved. So my restrained customer persona slipped. I left one of those, "Are you kidding me?" laughs. I said the words, "Did you actually just call me racist?" "Nope, I'm out." While her husband started having a go at her for being ridiculous, I went and grabbed a till and stormed off into the office, half expecting to come back out and find Karen chaining herself to the front door and chanting, "We shall not be moved." About 10 minutes later, 2 wonderful police officers showed up. Karen had suddenly turned into a timid and demure delicate little victim again while whining about her plight to these guys. They also quickly worked out what was going on. Apparently the call they got had said it was a domestic incident. It was clearly not a domestic incident. They spent 5 minutes searching the same areas and also found no AirPod in sight and suggested she leave her contact details for us to call her if it turned up in the morning. Karen thought this was a great idea. I pointed to the counter and said the pen and paper were still sitting there from when we offered that same thing an hour before. Granted, it was a childish move, but after hearing the police officers ask him where her child was while she played with the AirPod, my last silver of understanding and patience evaporated. Turns out Karen had freely given her very expensive, arguably overpriced headphones to her 4-year-old child to play with, then flipped out and called the police when one went missing. Seriously, I can't even begin to explain how livid I was at this point. Needless to say, she was heavily scolded and warned by the police officers. She actually burst into tears and she is now barred from the premises by orders of my boss. Best boss ever. So, I've started to get into belly socks, butterfly knives, like a couple months ago. I love it very much and I have a couple of knives. I love to do it in public too, but when I'm around people I always use my crack racking version 2.5, basically a trainer knife so it doesn't have an edge. Today I was walking with my friends and I was playing with my trainer knife as usual, when a kid runs up to me. "Hi, what's that? Can I try it?" The kid was around like 9 or 10. "Sure, but do you have any of your parents here? Because I don't want to get in trouble." "Yeah, my mom is here." And he runs to his mother and comes back a couple of minutes later. "Mom, it's him. He has that thing." The kid was really excited at this point. "Can you show us some tricks, please?" "Sure." So I started to do a couple of easier tricks like a thumb around. "Hey, put that knife away. You're gonna hurt us." "No, I can't do that, even if I wanted to. This is a training knife, so it's fully dull and doesn't have an edge." And then, I grabbed a blade. "Put that away or I'm going to call the police. If you want to, you're going to be the only one who's in trouble." So we waited there until the police arrived. "Yep," she called him. "So, what seems to be the problem here? This young man has a knife and hurt us." Her kid says. "No, he didn't say anything wrong." The police officer turns to me. "Is that true? You've got a knife?" "Yes, officer. I've got one in my pocket. It's a butterfly knife, but it's a trainer so it doesn't have an edge. Can you show it to me?" Slowly. "Sure." And I reached into my pocket and handed it to the officer by the blade. "So he sees it doesn't have an edge. Okay, I see no problem here. Thank you, sir." And he started to hand me my knife, but the entitled parent snapped it out of the officer's hand and decided, I don't know why, to slap the officer. "Ma'am, put that knife down and put your hands behind your back. Now." "But I'm just doing what you can't do." Then she threw my knife full force to the ground. And the rest of the story was that the mother got arrested for lying to an officer, harming him, and damaging someone's property. And me and my friend stayed with the kid until his dad arrived. So without getting too political, we recently had an election in the USA. My aunt supported one side while her husband and adult offspring supported the other side. The election did not go the way my aunt wanted it to. Aunt proceeded to flip her crap, breaking things, yelling, and even going as far as to set her daughter's "I voted" sticker on fire. Her husband called the cops, declined to arrest her for anything, but suggested that she find a different place to stay for the night. This happened yesterday in New Jersey. Fast forward to 2 a.m. today. Here I am sleeping peacefully in my home with my family, over 500 miles from all that drama. My fence alarm goes off, waking me up. I don't know if it's a bear or a trespasser, so I get my pants on and grab my shotgun just to be safe. Turns out, my aunt cut the locks off my front gate because she couldn't get in, and I wasn't entering my phone. Why did she have bolt cutters in her car? So I safely stow my weapon and ask her what the hell. She starts crying and screaming. Mind you, this is at 2 a.m., in a quiet rural community, about how the devil took her family and they threw her out. And she says that since she has nowhere else to go, I need to let her in, so she can stay in my guest room for a while. I told her one of my guildies is using that room right now. The room is occupied. This person came from Texas all the way to West Virginia to hang out with me. I'm not gonna toss them out with 30 seconds of notice because my aunt showed up. So she decides to call the police and tell them that I'm keeping her from entering her home. We're out in the woods, so the cops don't get here quickly. 4:41 in the morning, the cops showed up. I see them talking to her in my driveway. She shows them the bolt cutters and the ruined lock. A few minutes later, the officer knocks on my door. Your tenant claims that. I immediately cut him off and told him that I do not have a tenant. I own and occupy this structure. Then I offered to show him the deed. Well, this woman claims that. I cut him off again. What does the address of her ID say? At this point, the cop is pissed at me. I can tell. So I try to de-escalate the situation. Look man, she doesn't live here. She has never lived here. That's my aunt. She lives in New Jersey. Please check her ID card. The cop calms down a bit and lets me know that he will talk to her and then comes back. 10 minutes later, the cops come back to my door. 3 of them this time. Not just the one from earlier. One of them had stripes and a rocker on his arm. He asks me if there is any way aunt can stay here for the night. Because she's too drunk to drive, so he can't let her back on the road. This woman just drove from New Jersey to West Virginia drunk. Thank God she didn't kill anyone. I told him that she cannot stay here, but that I'm sure there is room in the local jail. The cop asks me if she can just sleep in her car in my driveway and leave in the morning. I told him absolutely not. When she wakes up in the morning, I would just have to call him to get her off of my property, so that would solve nothing, and I ask him to remove her from my property. Long story short, her car got towed and she is in a drunk tank for the night. I was a witness to this a long time ago and the results were learned by word of mouth. Once upon a time, there was a kid. Let's call him Marco. Marco was your everyday kid. A little skinny. I remember him being slightly geeky and if you left your pins unattended, he'd disassemble them before you turned back around in your seat at times. He was nice, polite and fairly helpful. This was middle school. One day though, he does it to a bully and let's call him Polo. Polo is huge but was fat. He looks like if you drill 3 holes into him, a giant could use him for bowling. He's not nice, he's not handsome and he's got a posse of equally disgusting friends who all gang up together to bully others. I suspect that if they hadn't ganged up with each other, they would have been bullied. Perhaps they have been in the past and got a taste of power over others when they ganged up. I don't know. I kept to myself. One day, I saw Marco with a swollen eye and wet hair. He's limping a bit too and his backpack is ripped. I ask him what the hell happened and turns out Polo threw him into a bathroom stall by his backpack which ripped. The toilet got him in a knee and Polo shoved his face into the water bashing his eye into the seat. I asked why Polo had done this to him and he says, I took his pin apart. It was just a big crystal or some cheap pin like that. Things escalate over the next few weeks. Eventually, Marco has to take time off when Polo strips him naked in the bathroom except for his boxers and makes him shove them into the toilet. The school, being full of your typical jerks, tries to expel Marco for damage to school property and does nothing to Polo. This is taught by video evidence of the gang leaving the bathroom, laughing and rifling through Marco's backpack, then tossing it in the trash. When Marco comes back, he's different. He's not happy. He's quite subdued and he doesn't talk to anyone and bruises magically appear on him between classes. He withdraws into himself and begins to look positively skeletal. Of course, no one at the school does anything except one nice jock. He comes across Polo stealing Marco's backpack and Polo into a trash can. Of course, he's suspended. But does it again when he comes back. The teachers give up on suspending the jerk after his parents threaten to sue. The fact that someone bothered to stand up for him, though, seems to have given life back to Marco. He starts opening back up and putting weight back on, which is very good. One day, though, he's wearing a scarf, a very special, beautiful knitted scarf. His grandfather had knitted for him. Yes, grandfather before he died. Polo steals it and comes back the next day with a bag of ashes, handing it to Marco. And he laughs hysterically. Marco comes back the next day with a backpack full of sugar-free Haribo gummy bears. Polo, being the glutton that he is, steals every single bag of bears and eats them by the throughout the day. Marco Crias. But I remember something in his sobs didn't quite reach his eyes. Near the end of the school day, Polo lurches out of the classroom and pulls for the bathroom. He doesn't come back the next day. Or the next. Someone says they saw blood in the bathroom. Polo comes back a few days later with an eye patch and mottled, fading bruises all across his face. I believe it's called petechiae eye. He's permanently blind in his left eye and bruising makes him look like a ripening fruit for as long as it lasts. He's in and out of school for doctor's appointments for a while. He did not mess with Marco again and instead became very introverted and quiet. The reports of blood in the toilet of the bathroom he went to were never confirmed. But it's quite likely. Thank you for watching and see you next time. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Welcome back to channel, where we delve into the complexities of relationships and the bonds that tie us together. Today's story is one that will shake you to your core. It's titled, Caught Cheating, Husband Hires Private Investigator, Shocking Footage Revealed. Get ready to experience a tale of trust shattered and the pursuit of truth, as we uncover the secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Tell something was up, but I didn't press. She said she was tired. So I went with it over the next few days. I started noticing that she was on her phone quite a bit, even around dinner time. I would ask, why is she texting a lot these days? And she would tell me that she was in a group chat, talking with her girlfriends about the girls' night out they had and planning another one. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was constantly texting her girlfriends. It was nothing new, but looking back now, I realized she was probably planning something with them that she didn't want me to know about. My wife works as a consultant for a big firm and would always come home stressed. So I didn't mind her having a night out with her girlfriends every so often. But now she is talking about another girls' night out. This will be the second girls' night out coming up in less than 3 weeks. The bad thing is, these women she hangs out with, 4 of them are all single. She is the only married one of the bunch, which in my opinion is not a good thing because it means she is the only one with something to lose. The other women are footloose and fancy-free. I don't want my wife to be a cheater, but I also don't want to control her or tell her what she can and cannot do. So, her second girls' night out came and went. I told her the next day that she needed to be careful and make sure her single friends didn't cause her to fuck up her marriage. She looked at me funny, but didn't say anything. After work one day, I stopped by my parents' house and talked to them about my frustration with my wife participating in these frequent girls' night out parties. I told my mom that the women she hangs out with are all single and none of them have anything to lose. My mom looked at me and said, "Well, I don't see anything wrong with a girls' night out, but I do see a problem with a girls' night out with only single women." My mom said she is playing with fire. Then my dad chimed in and said, "Yeah, if I were you, I would put my foot down and tell her that's enough." He also said the fact that she keeps going out to party without you is a major cause for concern. Then my mom jumped in again and said she did a girls' night out with her friends. 3 times in the 40 years, my parents have been married, but my mom's girlfriends were all married. Mom said they were home by 11 p.m. They didn't stay out later than that. I thought about what they said on my way home and I decided they were right. I needed to nip this in the bud before it got out of hand. When I got home, I talked to my wife about it and she got angry saying I was being controlling and didn't trust her. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to control her. I just wanted her to be careful because I loved her. She didn't want to hear it and went to bed angry. The next day she left for her girls' night out. She didn't even come home from work. This was her 3rd girls' night out. I did not even know about this one. My wife didn't get home until after 2 in the morning. I didn't say anything. I just waited up for her. I pretended to be asleep. When she entered the bedroom, I decided I needed to find out what was going on and why she wanted to leave her family and party with her girlfriends on the way to work the next day. I called a friend of mine and asked him, did he still have the contact information for the private investigator he used for his company? A little backstory. My friend had an employee who was trying to get workman's comp for having an accident on the job. His employee was complaining after the accident that he couldn't come to work. So my friend promptly hired a private investigator. Turns out he wasn't injured at all. He was playing golf, played in a flag football league. Needless to say, he dropped the workman's comp claim. My friend gave me the number of the private investigator he used. He then asked me, was everything okay? I told him I wasn't sure. And I indicated that I think my wife is doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. I said, she has been going out and doing these so-called girls' night out parties. My friend then asked me what made me think my wife was cheating. I told him about the 3 times she had gone out recently and stayed out until after midnight, coming home, smelling of alcohol. I also told him that when I confronted her about it, she got angry and defensive. He then said to me, "Well, it sounds like you have enough." I called the private investigator and set up an appointment to meet him after work. I met the private investigator and he asked me what I wanted him to do. I told him I wanted him to follow my wife and see what she was doing when she went out on her so-called girls' night out. The private investigator told me his fee was $100 per hour. And I said, I didn't care. I just wanted to know what my wife was doing. I gave the private investigator a picture of my wife. I told him what kind of car she drove, where she worked and what hours she worked. The private investigator told me he would start following my wife the next day. I waited impatiently for the private investigator to call me and tell me what my wife was doing. Finally, after 3 days, he called me. The private investigator told me to meet him after work. He had some footage to show me. He showed me footage of my wife leaving work in different clothes that day. On that day, she didn't leave for work in those clothes. She changed at work. He followed her to a bar. He went in and noticed she went to a table with a bunch of women, which were her girlfriends. They were there for about 2 hours. Then they all left. He followed them to a house about 15 minutes from the bar. He noticed a guy answered the door and they all went in. The private investigator was dressed in black. He tells me that at night, it helps him get closer for his surveillance. He walked up to a window at a slight distance and noticed all the girls were dancing, grinding on a few guys. And my wife was in the corner with some guy. He was squeezing her butt and she was kissing him. After that, he looked at me and told me, "I think you have enough to do what you need to do." He handed me this flash drive and he told me he will keep a copy just as a precaution. After meeting with the private investigator, I went home and cried. I couldn't believe my wife of 9 years had cheated on me and she was still doing it. I wanted to confront her, but I didn't want to show her the footage. The next day I got up and left for work without saying anything to my wife. She sent me a text on the way to work, asking why I didn't say anything to her. When I left, I did not respond to the text. When I got to work, I made it a point to call a few divorce lawyers to see what I was dealing with and how I could protect myself. I also started looking for a place to stay because I knew there was no way I could stay in the house with my wife. I will miss the boys, but their mother did this. I was absolutely devastated. My whole world had been turned upside down and I didn't know how to fix it. The only solution was divorce. I wasn't going to try and fix our marriage. She wants this single life. She can have it. I had to be strategic because I didn't want the boys to be alone while their mother went out on her girls' night out. I live in Massachusetts, which is a no-fault state, that much I know. So divorce should be pretty easy. When I got home that night, my wife was home sitting on the couch with the boys. I walked in and she asked how my day was. And the boys smiled at me and said, "Hey Dad." I wanted to cry, but I had to hold it in. A few hours go by and everyone is winding down. My wife puts the boys to bed and comes downstairs and asks me if I want to watch a movie with her. I said, "No, I don't think so." She then said, "Okay, I'm going to bed." I waited until she was in bed to go upstairs and get my stuff and leave. I waited until she fell asleep before I left the house. I didn't have anywhere to go yet. So I went to my parents'. It was late. My dad was worried and asked me, was I okay? I told him I had something to show him. We sat down at the dining room table. I pulled up the footage that my private investigator compiled and showed my dad what the private investigator found. And my dad was in disbelief. My mom came downstairs and I showed her too. They were both speechless. I told them I was moving out and getting a divorce. They didn't say anything to try and stop me. I'm sure they were disappointed, but what could they say? My wife had cheated on me and I was done. I stayed at my parents' house that night. The next morning I got up, I sent my boss a text and told him that I would be coming in late. I was honest with him and he didn't have a problem with it. After talking to my boss, I noticed my wife had sent me hundreds of text messages, wondering where I was and why I left last night. I didn't respond to any of them. I found an attorney and filed for divorce based on the grounds of adultery. And I moved out of the house. I went back to the house when I knew my wife wouldn't be there. And I left a note on the kitchen counter. I told her that I had filed for divorce and that she could find me at my parents' house if she needed anything. After work, I drove to my parents' house and I saw my wife's car parked in the driveway. I went inside and I saw my wife sitting at the kitchen table crying. She asked me why I filed for divorce and I slowly pulled out my phone and showed her the footage and told her that I did not deserve this. I didn't deserve the way you were treating me. We sat and talked for a while and we both decided it would be best if we divorced. I told her I didn't want the house. We were renting it anyway, so she could have it. She makes enough money to pay for it. At the divorce hearing, it was amicable. The judge gave me 30 days to get the rest of my things. I didn't go after her for alimony. I made more than her and I didn't have to pay child support. She was getting that from the kid's father already. We are both the same age, 33, and the boys are 7 and 8. It was heartbreaking because I loved those boys like they were my own and I was their father in every way, but biologically. My job offered me a position out of state and I took it, changed my phone number. Only my parents and a few friends have my new number and started a new life. It's been almost a year now and I'm doing well. I've started dating again and I'm in a much better place emotionally. My friends have told me that my ex-wife was asking about me and she even tried to reach out to me on social media. But I have no desire to speak to her or see her again. I'm glad I made the decision to move on with my life. And I hope you can do the same if you're in a similar situation. Thanks for reading. I have never shared anything about my life on these forums, but this was heartbreaking for me. I still struggle at times, but one day at a time is how I am dealing with it. Thank you for joining us for this emotional journey. If you've been moved by today's story or have your own experiences to share, please leave a comment below. And remember, no matter how difficult the truth may be, it's always better to face it with courage and integrity. Stay tuned for more heartfelt stories